Wonderful. Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. Hope you're having a great day. And I hope that the information that we share in today's workshop will be beneficial for you. I think it's really exciting, given the times that we're in now with labor and all trying to find, oops, I need to click share again. There we go. Trying to find the right people for our organizations and making sure that that's a smooth and efficient process. And that's what we're here to talk about today. And the center of that is Dynamics 365 Business Central. So that's really exciting. A lot of great worlds coming together to really see some really cool things in how you can attract the right people for your organization. So the title of our webinar today is how to make recruiting and onboarding more efficient with Microsoft Dynamics 365 Business Central. And we're going to spend some time in Business Central. We're going to spend some time outside of Business Central, and we're going to tie it all together. And I'm very excited to show you this today. My name is Dan Doolin, Senior Solution Strategist. I've been with Integrity Data for almost 22 years. I've worked with human resources and payroll customers ranging from 10 employees to 50,000 employees. And I've done that my whole career, which is about 25 years now. And so this is just, I guess, exciting stuff for me. And maybe that's good. Maybe it's a little too exciting for me, but I think it's good information, and I hope that it's helpful for you as we go through it today. All right, let's look at our agenda for today's workshop. I'm going to do a quick introduction. We're going to set the stage. We're going to talk about why this stuff is important. Why is recruiting and onboarding so important to every organization? And then I'm going to show you how to do it well and how to do that within Dynamics 365 Business Central and interconnectivity between systems, and really the way that it should be. And then we'll spend a few minutes talking about customer experience and answer some questions also. All right, as far as introduction, if you're not familiar with Integrity Data, we're a Gold Microsoft partner. We've been around for a long time. We're based here in Illinois. We're not in Chicago. We are in the center of the state, about halfway between Chicago and St. Louis. We've been at this for a long time. We've worked very closely with Microsoft. We've worked very closely with Microsoft on Dynamics GP and Dynamics 365 Business Central. And of course, we spent almost all of that time in the area of human resources and payroll. And of course, being in the area of specifically payroll in this instance, we understand the importance of payroll support and supporting our customers when they're trying to get their payroll out the door, and how important that is, and how important it is to keep employees happy. Obviously, when employees don't get their paychecks or their paycheck is incorrect, that doesn't make them very happy. I know that it doesn't make me very happy. So we understand the importance of that and how important it is to keep employees engaged. And that's what we're all about. And that's what we're all about helping you do as well. All right, let's set the stage here. So why is recruiting and onboarding important? And really think about this in an additional context. Here in the United States, especially, we have a very what we call a tight labor market, which means that the supply of labor for open positions is pretty low. So you've got to be at the top of your game in the recruiting and onboarding space. I've got a story, but I'll share that for a little bit later. Anyway, so let's talk about some of these statistics here. Great employee onboarding can improve employee retention by 82%. So think about the importance of a first impression. And if your onboarding experience is not great, then that already starts to set in motion those negative thought processes with employees. And I can speak from experience on that. We here at Integrity Data didn't always have a great onboarding experience. It's kind of like the usual, where it's like, hey, here they are, throw them into the fire and let them get to work, and they'll figure it out. And that's not the best. I fill out a bunch of paper forms, and it was just, we've improved that greatly, and because we understand the importance of it. 88% of organizations don't onboard well. Raise your hand. I'm raising mine because we were in that boat of not doing a great job of onboarding new employees. 58% of organizations say their onboarding program is focused on process and paperwork. And the big one is that last one, paperwork. And especially in today's world with COVID and things like that, and just the technology, employees working remote, it's a lot harder to do paperwork. It needs to be electronic. Most organizations only focus on week 1 of onboarding. So get the employee in here, get the paperwork filled out, and get them working versus strategically working on performance plans and reviews and things like that, and extensive training programs. A negative onboarding experience results in new hires being 2 times more likely to look for other opportunities. So think about that. In that first week or two, that employee could already have that negative experience and be twice as likely to leave and look for another opportunity. And so that boils down to cost. When you look at the cost of hiring and interviewing and the time that you spend on it, you don't, if you're hiring the right employee, you don't want to lose them or set that process in motion in those first couple of weeks, or really ever. But get started on the right foot, put your best foot forward, all those things with the onboarding process that'll get the employees hopefully career with you off to the right start. 81% of organizations believe cross-boarding is just as important as new hire onboarding. That means when an employee changes jobs, how efficient are you at doing that? And how smooth of a process is that when you transition or readjust your organizational structure? And a lot of times in that situation, employees just have a lot of questions, and making sure that as an HR team, you've got those questions, answered as much up front before you make those announcements is really important. The biggest onboarding challenge is inconsistent application, meaning a couple things. One is, are you asking the right questions of the right applicants as you go through the applicant process to, as we say, compare apples to apples of applicants, but also applying the same process throughout the onboarding experience for an employee. And so just making sure that it's effective and consistent and smooth, not only for the new employee, but also for your HR team. That just brings efficiency into that area of your organization, which of course helps keep those HR employees at the top of their game as well. All right, so why use HR software, also known as HRIS? And we've talked about the importance of recruiting. So when you really start thinking about the business aspect of things, yes, it's cool to be able to click on take a picture of a QR code and start the application process. But at the end of the day, it's got to make good business sense. And so that's what we're here to talk about. Sorry for the train in the background there. An HRIS helps you recruit, hire, and train new employees as quickly as possible so they can effectively fill their roles. So think about hiring is a very risky process. There's so many areas of risk. Do you have the right person? Are they a good fit for your organization? Are you going to get them up and running quickly? Are they going to be effective in their role quickly? How quickly do they, do you start seeing positive value out of that employee from a training perspective and from their productivity versus just sunk hiring costs? Because every time you hire another employee, you're making an investment, and that return comes later. So it's important to get that right. With better initial onboarding and continual training, you can boost employee productivity, reduce turnover, and achieve greater efficiency. And so a lot of times the purpose of HRIS systems is to help manage that and to make sure you're not only doing it well, but effectively communicating it to the employee so that the employee knows, hey, wow, golly, they've got a plan, they're treating me well, I know what's going on, I know that I'm set up for success, I'm not using my brain energy worrying about what's coming next or if my job's at risk or where I'm at or where I stand. They're just focused on doing their job. And all that's good news, of course, for the bottom line. All right, so now let's talk about Business Central and what we call Integrity Data HRP, which is our product line to pull all this together and help you with it and how it can help. So integrity data HRP, the key benefits of it are that you can do all of this within one solution. So managing the entire employee life cycle, built specifically for Microsoft Dynamics. And just to be clear on that, that's both Microsoft Dynamics 365 Business Central, as well as Dynamics GP. So if you're using Dynamics GP today and thinking about going to Business Central, you could start utilizing some of these tools today in conjunction with Dynamics GP, and also going forward with Dynamics 365 Business Central. Nurture your people instead of endless administration. So focus on what's important, getting the information to the employees and not rekeying data or duplicate entry, anything like that. Endless paperwork, those types of things. All right, so this is a graphic of what we call our employee life cycle. And it begins at the top, of course, with recruiting and human resources management. Today, we're really going to focus on the recruiting part of that. And we'll come back and we'll talk about some of the HR tools in another workshop. But we go around the circle here, time entry tools for employees that need to enter their time, of course, processing payroll, either in Dynamics GP or Dynamics 365 Business Central, employee self-service tools, which I'm sure we'll see in a workshop in the future as well. In the United States, we do electronic tax filing at the local, state, and federal levels for our customers, and then also compliance efforts focused around the Affordable Care Act and HR compliance. All right, so let's get into some specifics now on recruiting, onboarding, and people management features. Let's talk, we're going to break this up into a couple sections. We're going to talk about applicant tracking, which is the process of finding the right applicants to fill openings in your organization, and then also onboarding. So once you find the applicant, how do you get them hired and get their information into your system? Now, well, I'll cover that in just a second. So when you find the right people faster by creating job openings, et cetera, you can speed up the hiring process. And then also it be all electronic and electronic interaction with those applicants. We're going to talk more about that, and I'm going to show you that in the demonstration. Electronic onboarding, I think this is fantastic. And I think this is really important from the perspective of bringing on employees that are remote. We've been doing that here at Integrity Data. We've hired a lot of remote employees. A lot of them we've never met in person, but we've brought them on. We've got their electronic forms, and we've done all of their onboarding electronically and remotely without ever seeing them face to face. And so you can do that. And I think what's important is doing that in a way that's effective for your organization. We're all different. We all operate differently. We even operate differently amongst different departments. And so, onboarding a salesperson might be different than onboarding a person that's going to work in your manufacturing facility. And those onboarding task lists are going to be different and unique to those different types of employees, just like you're going to look for different types of employees to fill those positions. So we're going to talk through that and go through that in the demonstration as we go here. All right, I put some screenshots in here so you'd have them in the PowerPoint and then the recording. So for recruiting in HR, complete life cycle management, we're going to see this in just a minute as we go through the process and see the dashboard from an HR perspective. Online applicant tracking with the applicant tracking dashboard. Employee onboarding that we'll see, and we're going to go through some examples of this. And then online performance reviews and management, employee certification, license and training management. That's the ongoing employee engagement pieces that help you manage those employees as they go through their career with you. We're not going to cover those in detail today because I think I'll probably run out of time as it is on the applicant tracking and onboarding, but we'll cover those later for sure in a subsequent workshop. But know that those pieces exist to complete your HR life cycle and system needs for managing your employees effectively. And of course, reporting is a key element to any and all systems, but especially from an HR perspective. All right, let's jump over to the demonstration. Let's really put some action to it here. All right, so let me start over in Dynamics 365 Business Central. All right, so here we are. So What we're going to do here, we're not going to cover this today, but the reason that I'm starting in Business Central is that's where we have all of our employees, because that's where we're processing payroll. Now you might be asking yourself, well, hey, Dan, Business Central does not include payroll, or Microsoft did not include payroll within Business Central. That's okay. We've got that covered for you as part of the employee lifecycle. So we're providing the payroll application that sits inside of Business Central. And that's important because that means all of your financials and everything else are all going to be within Business Central as well. So you're posting to the general ledger, you're interacting with the vendor ledger. If you're using job capabilities within Business Central, all of that's already there. And so you're going to process payroll in Business Central. So as you're hiring a new employee, that employee is going to end up in Business Central. Now, again, I'll also mention here as well that the same is true for Microsoft Dynamics GP also. But in this case, we're talking specifically about Business Central. So I've got my employee here. I've got an employee named Adam Barr. He's a longtime employee. Here's his information, et cetera. And we use this to process payroll. Now, Adam also has a record that we call, in the HR interface, which is different and that's good because it lets the HR team do their thing that's separate from the financials, but manage the employees, hire the employees. And then when that's complete, all that information comes over into the payroll system so that you can process payroll. So payroll is really, if you were to draw it in a picture, payroll is really in the middle from a financial perspective, because that's where the rubber meets the road. And so you've got time entry coming into payroll, you've got HR that interacts with payroll. We pull out a payroll for the tax filing, et cetera. But it's sort of the hub, if you will, and then everything else revolves around that, because that's kind of what the purpose of the ERP system. And so what we're going to do is we're going to go back out to HR and we're going to show you some of the recruiting aspects. And if I have enough time, we'll bring in a new employee and we'll see them show up here in payroll. And that's the whole idea, is that we're interacting from a Business Central perspective and processing payroll and paying the employees at the root of the organization, which is the ERP system. But we're managing these tasks in the HR system for hiring and for managing employees to make sure that they have everything they need to be successful within our organization. All right, so now let me jump over to the other tab here, to HR. So this is the front end of the HR dashboard, if you will. So you can see it's telling me some things that are coming up. I got some birthdays coming up, some sort of certificate expirations coming up for Adam Barr himself. Got some announcements here, and I can quickly, as an HR manager, so right now I'm logged in as an HR manager, I could quickly jump in to some hiring tasks. I can look at employees, I can manage benefits, look at expense reports, set up company settings, like if I need a new department, new position, setting up some new benefit codes, anything like that, and of course, reporting. So obviously what we're going to focus on today is recruiting and onboarding. So let's start taking a look at that. And the first piece that we're going to look at is applicant tracking. So I'm going to go over to HR admin. I've got my applicant tracking box here. So of course, I'm an HR administrator. I'm logged in. I've got access to everything because in addition to being an HR administrator, I'm also the demonstration guy. And so I have access to everything. So let's start up here in this applicant tracking box. And so I'm going to go through a couple steps on the applicant tracking side. I'm going to talk about the question bank. I'm going to talk about the application version, and I'm going to get to the job posting. And the job posting will be where we go external with it to say, hey, here's an open position. But I want to show you a couple key things that you get into prior to that are important in that job posting. All right, let's start with the question bank. So the question bank gives you the ability to set up a whole list of questions that you want to ask applicants. Now, you're not going to ask every applicant every question. Go back to my earlier example. You're going to ask salespeople, sales applicants, different questions than you're going to ask manufacturing applicants. But what this is your list so that you can always pull from the same list and don't have to recreate the questions every time. So you've got a question bank here. You can look at the different types of questions. You can obviously add new questions. These are sample questions that I put in here. You've got the sequencing, so it'll automatically put them in order for you. And you can see the different types of questions, yes, no questions, free form questions, and so on. And so if you look at, just dig into an example of a question here, it's specific to my company. It's a yes, no type question versus free form text, a date, or a multiple choice question. This question is active. It is required if it's in the application. And what's interesting is you have this knockout applicant on an incorrect answer. So if you ask them a yes, no question, so if you ask them a question, if you ask an applicant a question of just, I'll keep it easy. Are you a hard worker? And the applicant says no, you can make that a knockout question, which means that when they come into the applicant tracking dashboard, they're going to show up as automatically rejected because they're not a hard worker. You don't want them on your team. And so you can set up those types of questions to sort of pre-filter or screen the applicants really without any interaction from your team. Okay, these are the ones that we don't want. It's pretty easy to say we're not interested in hiring these employees or these applicants. So let's move on to the other ones that are more qualified. And you can see this is all just very easy to use, simple yes, no toggles here, and you're on your way. All right, so we're going to use these a little bit later, and so we'll come back to that. All right, just real quick, I'll mention the status setup. The status setup is really all of your statuses of your application process or your hiring process. There's some in here. You can define your own. You can make new ones, put them in order. So application reviewed, schedule interviews, make offer, and then it's complete. And you can notice there's workflows around each of these. So when an application gets submitted and the application is started, the applicant gets an email. Hey, you've started your application. Here's a link back to it in case you want to continue it later. Notifications internally, externally to the applicant, and so on. All of those workflows, and you can define what exactly happens on those workflows. If it's an email, if it's a note in the workflow for the applicant, etc. All right, now let's look at application version. So application version is really a way for you to make sure that if you're going to have multiple job postings, for example, in the area of sales, those are going to be very, very similar. And so this application version concept enables you to predefine sort of a sales application and then use it in a job posting. So if you've got 10 openings in sales, you don't have to recreate every one from scratch. So let me show you what's in here. So in this example, got the shop sales associate, for example, the version date. What do you want to ask for? What information do you want to ask for from the applicant? Well, we'd like to know their employment history. We don't necessarily care about their pay history. They probably inflate it anyway. Their education history is important, work conditions, skills, keywords. So you can see very easy, yes, no, I want this information from an applicant. I don't care about this information from an applicant, and so on. And so from that, you're predefining the information that you're going to ask for in this application version that you can then very quickly plug into a job posting. Okay. Custom question selection. So here's the questions from the question bank. All right, I want to ask if they're currently employed. I want to ask, if they're a robot or not. I want to, contact friends or relatives, et cetera, et cetera. Are they willing to work overtime? And so those are the questions that you're now putting into this application version. So think about it now that you've got this application version. Let's just say it's a generic for sales, and you're going to post open sales positions in 10 different locations or regions. So you've got 10 postings. Well, you've created the application version once, and now what we're going to do is just go pull that into the job posting. And so you only have to do this once versus 10 times for each posting, or 10 times once for each posting. Okay, so it really does save you time. So go back to the goals. Go back to why it is we're talking about this information. Doing this well and doing this efficiently is very important to your bottom line. Being able to get this set right so that you're asking the same set of questions and asking for the same information from all of those sales applicants across your regions or across your locations is important for consistency. It's important to make sure you get the right people. And it's important, that's going to be important to make sure that you get them on board and get them selling sooner rather than later, which, sales is an easy one. That's going to hit the bottom line if these new salespeople are actively selling well. All right, so now let's look at the job posting. So in a job posting, and I'm just going to pull one up here. I got sales associate, sales account manager. Let's look at this. So I've got my company, open job posting. I've got the posting date. Okay, I've got the position. Here's the application version. Okay, so I'm pulling that in from previous. So then it knows, okay, in this posting, we're asking for this information from the applicant, and we're going to ask them these questions. Okay, here's the description that the applicant will see. And then do you want to include recruiters? Now, recruiters can be anybody within your organization or externally, other than the HR manager. So we're going to leave this blank just because as the HR manager and the role that I'm logged in as, we'll be the recruiters. But if you want to keep others informed of, hey, what's going on with this applicant, could be those regional managers for those sales positions, then you can bring those in. And they will be notified and know what's going on. You can pull them into the interview process, et cetera. Okay. Do we want to include this in the this job opening in the public feed page? Yes. Okay, and that's active. And then I'm going to jump down and then come back. So these job attributes, you can add additional attributes and then have this appear externally. So you can integrate. We're already integrated with Google Jobs, jobbing.com, Indeed. And so you can get this not only on your corporate page or page in the HR system, but also externally to those job boards to really find the right talent. Okay, and that's all already done for you. Now, here's the job posting. There's a couple ways to get to this. So you can even think about, hey, I want to post this on Facebook, or I want to post it on LinkedIn or tweet it or whatever. You can just take the link and, hey, we've got an opening. Here's the link. Go directly to the company job board and they can start filling out their application. The other option is using QR codes. Now, this is where I get in trouble because, and this is just a funny story, going through a drive up at a restaurant last week, and they have a sign on their window that says, hey, would you like to join our team? And there's a QR code. And of course, me being the consummate HR and payroll nerd, I get my phone out and I'm snapping the QR code because I want to see what that looks like as far as how they're gathering information for applicants in their applicant tracking system. And you've probably seen these, and I got, some eye rolls from the family in the car with me, of course. I'm like, hey, this is pretty cool. They're doing a good job with this. But think about that QR code, think about where that can go. And you can do that. You're on Dynamics GP, you're on Business Central. You can do the same thing. You don't have to be a large corporate organization or a franchise of a large corporate organization. You can be, a small number of employees or medium number of employees and do the same thing and very easily. But think about where you can put that QR code. You can put it on the piece of paper on your window at each location. It could be on the bag that you put your merchandise into for your customers, and like, hey, here you go. We have job openings. You can put those anywhere. And so think about how creative you can be with that. We did some of the Optimus team might have saw this. We didn't have time. We had QR codes stuck to our shirts at a conference a couple months ago, just for fun, just so we could show the folks at Optimus and other customers how this works. So you can do a lot of things with this QR code. It's very versatile, very easy to use. So even right now, I meant to say this a minute ago, if you want to have your phone out and if you want to take the picture of that and follow the QR code, you can certainly do so. And if you want to put in your information, it'll start the process for you, and you're more than welcome to do that. And we'll even see you show up in the applicant tracking dashboard in a minute. So we might have 100 new applicants for the sales associate, but oh well. But that's a way for you to see how the process works and get a feel for it yourself. Nothing better than just giving it a try. So anyway, so that's the QR code. If you follow that, or if you click on the link, it's going to take you out to the job posting, which looks like this. Okay, so now you can see for yourself. I don't have to do it. Well, I'll do one here because gullible. Okay, and I can put in an email address. Okay, and I can start the new application. So it's that easy. Now, if you're doing it on your phone, you're also seeing how easy it is to do on a mobile device as well. Okay, begin the new job application. Now, this is what's neat. Now you start to see all the information that what do we ask for as we went through and we set up the application version. Oops, I changed the name there. I better not continue that. Autofill. Okay, there we go. Okay, and then continue. So you can start to see how easy it is for an applicant to go through that process. Now here's where we're asking for information and asking for, and then continue, and then it'll ask questions. Now I'm not going to go through all of this because watching me type is not the most exciting thing in the world. But here's where I want you to stop and think about something. When you're trying to attract the best talent available for your team and your organization, does this applicant tracking or entry process make a good impression to those applicants? So if you're an applicant and you're looking at this versus looking at a piece of paper and a paper form, which organization is more attractive to you? The one that's really on the ball with electronic applicant tracking, or the one that's still using the paper forms? I think it's paper forms because it's what we've always done. But the idea here is if you want to attract the best talent, you've got some great options for becoming more efficient and attracting the best talent using some electronic applicant tracking tools we can help you with. I think it's pretty neat. Okay, I will not continue that process, but we will see him show up in the applicant tracking dashboard. So I've already gotten an email from the system saying, hey, you started your application. Click this link to continue. And if you go through that with that QR code, you'll see that as well. All right, so what we've done so far is we've set up the questions, we've created the application version, we created the job posting, we put it out there, started an application. Now from an HR perspective, again, we can look back and say, okay, who's applied for this job? And so now we've got to start weeding through the applications to say, well, geez, which one should we pick? Which applicant should we really pursue? So let's go to the applicant tracking dashboard. Okay. So here's some that are already out there. So here's Daniel Donaski that I just entered. Okay, so you can see that his status is application started. Jim Bob, his application is completed. So let's look at him for just a minute. So we can look at his application. Okay, doesn't look like he uploaded any documents. Oh, there he is. Well, it's the application summary, didn't upload the resume. Okay, that's fine. It skipped the questions. So we can maybe give, Bob hasn't done a great job on his application here. but that's okay. Maybe we'll give him a call and talk to him a little bit more. So how do we move, I guess, in Jim, Jim through the application process? All right, so let's go over. So let's change his status. Okay, so application is completed. Let's set his status to say, you know what? Let's schedule an initial interview with him. Okay, so let's do that on, we'll set a date and a time. So let's do it on, next week at 9:30 a.m. Oops, let's keep it at a.m. Okay, and then it'll end at 10:30 a.m. That's great. The location interview, we will call you. You could, if you were doing a GoToMeeting or a Zoom meeting or Teams meeting, you put that link in here. Okay, and then hit save changes. Okay, so now he's going to get Jim is going to get an email saying, hey, your interview has been scheduled at this time, so on and so forth. And so just there you go. You can see it already. So we've got the calendar invite. So this is going to Jim. I'm getting Jim's emails over here on the other screen. And this is just a basic template. You can fancy up these notification templates. So it's got, your logo and looks a little bit nicer and puts additional information here. That's all up to you. And so you can, so Jim's ready for his interview and has the calendar invite. So you can even accept that and that would come back. All right, so let's take a look at an applicant that's a little further along. Let's look at Joe Smith up here. Okay, so let's look at the history of Joe Smith. So Joe Smith uploaded his resume. Okay, so we could look at that. It's a PDF. Here's some notes that have happened so far. The applications was started on 12/2, scheduled an interview on 12/7. We sent him an offer, and then we made him an offer. So I think we're still waiting to see what Joe has done for that offer. So the way that we, I already showed you how we changed that status to move him to the next level. So let's go see what Joe has viewed, what Joe's experience is as an applicant, and he's gotten an offer. So let me close this. Okay, let me pull up this other email from. Okay, and again, basic template here. So Joe gets an offer. Okay, so now I've got Joe's hat on. It's like, please follow the link below to confirm your response to this offer. Okay, and I didn't put much detail in the offer letter or anything, but Joe can now come in. So Joe's been through the interview process. We like Joe. Joe's a good guy. Joe's a hard worker. He answered that question correctly. He's going to do good things for us. So now Joe has a decision to make. If Joe wants to accept, he can accept. Okay, so Joe can put in his birth date, or he can decline. He can say, hey, you know what? I need more pay, and decline offer, and then you can start the negotiation process for there. You can put in his SSN. So I'm going to make one up here. I can't see. This is why I don't type very much in a demo. Okay. All right. So he's going to accept the offer and sign it, Joe Smith, and accept the offer. Okay. So think about that for a minute. Think about, the software is one thing, but really think about the process that you go through, and think about the process that other organizations pursuing Joe would go through. So think about the scenario where maybe Joe had an interview with you last Friday, or maybe it was yesterday, and Joe had an interview somewhere else yesterday as well. And Joe is like rock star. We want Joe on our team. Everybody wants Joe on their team. And so your offer goes to Joe's email later that day. And he gets it in his email. It's like, wow, I already got an offer, and I could go accept the offer. Versus the company down the street, maybe they're sending Joe a letter in the mail or, some other method, and you know what, it didn't get there, or it didn't get there before your email. And so you've got that advantage now of time and electronically. And Joe's like, man, I can start my onboarding process right here electronically. This is great. This organization is on the ball. I want to work for them because I'm Joe and I'm a rock star. And so the other organization loses out. So you become, you're competing for labor today. And so you want the best employees. And so being on your game from a recruiting and onboarding perspective is a big step in that direction. So this is really neat. So Joe's able to accept that offer. So now when this refreshes, let me just refresh the dashboard here. Okay, so you can see offer accepted. Okay, so now when we go to the onboarding side, we will start the onboarding prep for Joe. Okay. All right. So if you've got questions about applicant tracking, you put those in the question and answer thing, and I'm going to have to fly through onboarding because I spent a lot of time on applicant tracking. And I'll do that and then get back to our PowerPoint. So let's take a look at onboarding Joe and that process. So let's go to the onboarding dashboard. Okay. And we're going to go ahead and start the onboarding prep. Okay. So let's do onboarding prep. And this is oops, that's correct. It's a W-2 employee. And I could do this for anybody, whether they're coming from applicant tracking or some other part of the system. Okay, and let's begin the onboarding. Okay, so we're putting in the information here, and we could put, we would have Joe's information already. Okay, so now we start putting in the information for Joey's hourly, bi-weekly, and again, go through the process here. So what I'm doing is setting this up so then Joe can come in and start completing the process. Okay, so he's full-time, he's active, he's in sales, he's an account executive, so on and so forth. So very quickly, I'm able to do this. Okay, he reports to add a bar. Okay, and I can continue. I can start to add the users. So I think I've skipped a step here, but that's okay. I think I meant to pull him in and do that so I wouldn't have to fill this back in. So I can add him as a user. So here already I can send him a welcome email. I can assign him a role. I'm going to say he's a base user, which is going to give him access to employee self-service, time entry, etc. And I'm going to go from there. So add user, that's him. Okay, and submit the onboarding request. So we've started the onboarding process for Joe, and then you can see that it's prepped. Okay, so now Joe's going to get an email and ask him to continue the onboarding process. And so what that's going to do is take him through the process of uploading additional documents, whatever's on that task list for the onboarding. And again, it could be different for a sales employee versus a manufacturing employee. So here I've got on the other side of my screen, I've got the email for Joe. Hey, here's your onboarding. Continued the process. So Joe can go out and start filling in his additional information. So again, we haven't seen any paper go back and forth. It's been all electronic. So he's going to begin onboarding. Okay. So I've already got his name and everything in here. It's classifications, marital status, sorry, gender, marital status. So again, think about that first impression. Joe, now a new employee, think about this first impression he's getting, like, wow, I don't have to fill out all this paper forms. I can do this electronically. And then it's very easy to use for him. Whoops, except I need to fill this back in, okay. I missed a step in there where I didn't pull his information over to the onboarding. So that's so otherwise I wouldn't have to enter this information, of course. So I just made a mistake there going through the demo. So save and continue. Okay, his work state, let's just put him in here in Illinois where it's nice and cold today. Okay, so save and continue. So you can see it's just walking him through the process, fill out his tax form, and so on. And so we can just continue that. And Joe can do all of that and go right through it. Now I'd like to take this all the way through. So that we can hire him. I don't know if I'll be able to do that or not this quickly. Okay, got the SSN. I think I can go. So electronic signature. Okay, this is his I-9 information. So let me go back and let me go to the other employee. So again, Joe could continue with this onboarding, supply whatever forms, etc. Because I think we can go back to Mike Hall, and I think we can get him, might be able to get him hired. If not, that's okay. I got to watch my time here. Okay, so Mike Hall is in about the same position as Joe as far as his onboarding. So the process would be, let me see if I can. Okay, yeah, now I've got them in the same state. So what if I had more time, I'd take them through the process and finish it. I just didn't time it out very well on my part. Spent too much time on the applicant tracking. The idea here is that we continue the onboarding process. We take them through the steps and we approve their onboarding. So once the onboarding is complete, then you have an approved check box at the bottom of the process, and it's out to 4 and it's green. So it, based on the task list that you define for hiring, and when you onboard that employee, will know whether or not you've completed the onboarding or not. And then once it is, you approve it. Of course, once you approve it, then you come back into Business Central or Dynamics GP, and that new employee is now in your system. They've got all their information, they've got all their tax information. They're ready to be processed through payroll and Business Central. And so that's the completion of the system. That's your complete interactive employee lifecycle all in one. And you're operating at a very highly efficient level and very functional and very easy to use. Because notice we're not, I had to rekey a couple pieces of data because I missed a step there. But what you're not having to do duplicate entry between HR, payroll, and other systems. So it's very efficient and very effective. And you can see what a great impression you're making on those applicants and on those new employees as they come into your organization. All right, let me jump back to the PowerPoint and we will wrap it up here. So let's talk about the 5 major benefits. Obviously, we go through all that and, we talked about some of the statistics at first. And we talked to the software and what, yeah, it looks nice and it's pretty and Dan thinks it's great, but why is it important to you? So what are those major benefits for you? Winning the war for talent. So getting the right people on your team at the right time, improved problem solving and decision making, more time to contribute to the strategic plan. And what I like to say is drastically improving your chances of hitting strategic goals by getting the right people on your team, and by having those engaged and empowered employees, and clear bottom line improvements. Just in the amount of things I tried to do in 25 minutes or so in a demo, doing that on paper would take forever. And, I was in about 3 or 4 different roles doing that as an HR person, as an applicant, as a new employee, and so on. 86% of companies that started using up-to-date HR technology realized tangible benefits within 12 months. That's a pretty quick return on investment. 47% greater chance of increased productivity, 50% more likely to see better employee engagement, and 73% greater likelihood of improved reporting and insight. And I think that one's really closer to 100, just because of the reporting tools and things like that. So lots of benefits, and already part of your, or can be part of your complete Microsoft Dynamics installation, Microsoft Dynamics GP or Microsoft Dynamics 365 Business Central. All right, so let me talk for a minute just about being an integrity data customer and what that means, and talking about your journey as you go through the process here. This is a continuous life cycle. So probably picked up on this already. I kind of like the one-liners, but and to make the jokes, but essentially around this one, once you are a customer of ours, you're kind of stuck with us. And what that means is that we don't just, oh, great, thanks, and that's it. We stay involved with you. As we go through the process, we want to continue to learn from you about, hey, what do you need? We want to collaborate with you. What's changing in the marketplace from a human resources and payroll perspective, and how can we help? What do we need to add to our product? How do we engage with you to help understand what it is that you need and how can I help? And that's what my role is in our organization, is to really understand what our customers need and what they need to help make them successful and stay competitive, and make sure that we can support them in that through our product line and evolve new releases, working with other ISV products that are out there to make sure that you've got a complete cohesive solution on your Microsoft Dynamics platform. And so it's a great experience for everybody, hopefully.